Welcome to the podcast, Lawrence. It's great to have you on. Are you able to give us a quick rundown of what you guys do at Avo?
Hey Alex, it's good to be on the podcast. Thanks for having me. So at Avo, we bring evidence to life at the point of care for clinicians using AI and best practices. So we are a platform for kind of translating complex clinical guidelines into time-saving tools for providers, which could mean physicians, nurses, dietitians, medical assistants, APPs, really every type of provider to help them do their jobs more quickly and to deliver better patient care.
That's super interesting. So obviously you're using AI in that healthcare space and improving the experience and outcomes. Where did the idea come from?
So I wish I could take credit for the idea, but really did not come from me. It came from my two co-founders who are both physicians as well as big IT tech guys. So one of my co-founders, PJ, was doing AI research and a clinical informatics fellowship at Columbia. And that's how I met him while I was at Columbia getting my MBA. But he had been building apps to help himself be a better doctor, like for most of his adult life, and just happens to practice like medicine professionally. But he's really like an app tech guy, and so he was building apps for himself initially, and then found that like all of his peers wanted to use what he was building. So he uploaded some of his prototypes initially just to the App Store as mobile apps, and then over the next several months would see that tens of thousands of physicians were downloading his tools. So that's kind of when the light bulb like switch went on, and he was like, could be super helpful for not just me, but for my peers and the medicine community. So that's when he kind of decided to take what was a passion and make it come to life. And so he recruited our other co-founder and CEO, Yair, to join the team. Physician by trade, ended up getting board certified in clinical informatics, which just means like another techie doctor. And he brought like some really incredible leadership experience and overall focus on clinical wellness, like clinician wellness, to the team. He had led 300 residents as chief resident at a Brooklyn hospital during COVID. And so you can imagine how crazy things were. And so he was able to lead those residents like quite successfully through really challenging times. So he's brought that to the team. And then I met the guys through all being at Columbia at the same time together. My prior life was working as a software private equity investor, so I have this like good understanding of what a mature software business should look like. And I come from a family physician, so I've always been interested in healthcare and medicine and improving the lives of clinicians. So three of us all found each other, had these complementary skill sets, and then founded the company while we were at Columbia, and then worked on it like through grad school, and then launched the company in mid 2020.
Wow. Super interesting story of how you met your co-founders and started it. So in the early days, how did you go about acquiring your first customers and getting them on board the new platform Avo? Or did you already have a really good base and ground of people using the product or a similar product before Avo? Or what did that look like?
It was really tough. Like healthcare has these challenges that are so unique to the segment that you won't really find in most other industries. Maybe like other highly regulated industries like banking or education, you might have similar hurdles, but to get like your first hospital customer is so challenging because no one really wants to be the first. There's usually more downside in adopting like a new technology that's been unproven than there is upside for these decision makers. And so what helped us, I think, was we are a team of mostly doctors, right? I'm the only non-physician on the founding team. So having doctors talk to and meet and pitch to other doctors, incredibly helpful. I think another thing that helped us was we had done some like studies and research on our software outside of getting our first customer. So like we had a randomized controlled trial that was done on our software that showed it improved like physician accuracy and saved them time. And so we had some initial data points to bring to those conversations. And then we had a lot of those conversations and it took a very long time. And then we got someone to take a risk with us, right? Because we were unproven at the time and it paid off. Also used like our relationships and our network to get our first customer. So like our first customer was brought in through an advisor of mine that I had met at Columbia, one of my professors, and it kind of I think takes some of that in the beginning because the people who are going to trust you are the like people in your network, right? Or like loosely connected to the people in your network. So I think you really have to lean on like the trust and that type of relationship building to get those early customers. And I think it's like very, very challenging in a segment like healthcare.
Yeah, 100% with all the regulations, and it's not super easy to just adopt a new technology without it being proven and regulated. And yeah, so in terms of scaling up from there, obviously the team you've grown from team of three up to what are you at now?
We're about 30 people now.
30 people. So what did that process look like in scaling up the team, from the early days of trying to get your first customers on board to now a team of 30 and growing?
So the first area in which we hired for was product, which I think probably maps pretty similarly to how other startups scale, right? Like we, as we were finding our product market fit, we need to build a product in order to fit the market better, right? And so that requires development engineering resources, right? So initially we actually offshored a lot of our development, and then over time we'd kind of taken it in-house, just because it's more efficient in that way, and you don't have people coming and going, right? We had a great experience with our offshore team, but eventually we took it in-house when we could afford it. So we built out the product and engineering teams, and then slowly but surely, as kind of signals of product market fit and customer traction came along, we then started to build up the go-to-market side. First, we hired someone to help us with implementations and customer success, right? Because like once you sign a deal, that's kind of when a lot of the work starts, right? And you need to make sure you have like soft and like trustworthy hands to guide customers through an implementation and ongoing management. So I was doing all that work really myself initially, and then I'm like, we probably need a person dedicated to this. And, I was doing this as one of the many things like under my kind of purview, and I'm sure there's someone who could do it better, right? So we then hired a customer success manager to come on. And then we hired like an early sales leader who had a whole career in selling into hospitals, which again is like, as I was mentioning, is very difficult, and very few people understand how difficult it is. So when we've been hiring, especially on the go-to-market side, one of the main filters is like, have you worked in healthcare before? Like, do you understand how challenging it is? From an implementation side, from a selling side, right? From a marketing side. That's honestly the first criteria we filter for when hiring on go-to-market, because it's just such a unique set of challenges for healthcare. Like, if you've been through it all, you come to Ava and you're like, oh, okay, I'm ready to rock. I have guidance and experience to help shape the team. So yeah, I know I'm taking some tangents, but TLDR is product first, engineers first, then slowly but surely and thoughtfully building out the go-to-market side, first on implementations, then early leadership on the sales side. And then since then, we've built out like a sales and marketing function. And then we've grown up the implementation team to be 3 now, sales and marketing team to be like 4 or 5 now. And I'm comfortable investing in go-to-market because we have like product market fit now. So it's I was, I think, hesitant to like overly invest until I felt very good that we had that traction, and now we do, and it's like, let's go.
Nice. Yeah, and so in terms of the go-to-market strategy, what does that look like for you guys? What's the main, I guess, method of getting new clients coming on board the platform? Are you guys running paid ads? Are you doing outbound cold calling, content? What does that look like?
So we're in the B2B world, right? So that's just, as a disclaimer or as a way to frame our like marketing strategies. We actually get a lot of leads and hits at conferences. So if you like look at our go to market spend or marketing spend, a lot of it's at conferences. Um, you're able to meet like decision makers super quickly, have a lot of meetings all at once. Everyone is there to meet people, right? It's not like you're emailing people who didn't say, "Hey, I want to be emailed," right? Like you go to a conference and people are there to network and to meet. So we've had great success at conferences, and my CEO, who really leads sales, is the most extroverted guy you'll meet. So we just like drop him into a conference, and he'll like literally talk to a wall. It's awesome. It's awesome. He'll go up to every booth. Like it's really fun to watch. Um, so conference is a big part of the strategy. We don't really do advertisements at this point. We've done some experiments here and there. We have a very specific audience and buyer on the hospital side, and it's like to reach them, you have to go through very like from an advertising perspective, you have to go through really niche outlets that are really expensive, and we just think we have better ways to reach them not using ads. A third big piece of our strategy on the marketing side is like referrals. So we've signed up some like very influential hospital customers and who are just like really good partners and have been like organically referring us a lot of leads and customers. So that's been great. And then fourth, I'd say is like distribution channel partners. Distribution is the name of the game in healthcare. It's really hard to get into hospitals, as I was alluding to earlier. So why not leverage vendors or partners who have done that work and have a benefit in kind of adding you to their menu of things that they offer to hospitals?
100%. Yeah, partnerships is definitely a good way to get traction and open up your potential buyers and leverage their warm network, right? In terms of the challenges, in the journey from start to now, obviously having really good product market fit and now growing the team, what have been some of those key challenges that you've had to overcome as a team?
How much time do you have? um, no, in all seriousness, I think just like the general ebbs and flows of being a founder, has been tough, right? Like the way it's gotten easier over time, but the way I usually describe it is like if you have a graph, like the y-axis is kind of the magnitude of a positive or negative event, and the x-axis is time. When you're first starting off, you have these like ups and downs, but you're like so like you're so such in the beginning of that on the x-axis, like the ebbs and flows seem really big, right? But then as you kind of are in that seat for a longer period of time, you see the y-axis really start to play out, and you're like, oh, okay, like it's actually not a big deal with some of these ups and downs. But it's still tough. It's still tough. Like you have these deals that seem like they're make or break at the time, and if they go like the wrong way, you're like it affects you emotionally and it affects like how I like come back from work and treat like family and friends. Not treat, but like can relate to them. It's just so all encompassing as a founder. And so it's gotten better over time, but it's still a roller coaster. Having like the right relationships, the right people around you to like help support you, I think has been really helpful. Yeah, that's just been the challenge, like the emotional turmoil of being a founder. I'd say the second challenge has just been being on your toes to be able to make these quick small pivots, but not like pivoting all the time like a ballerina dancer, right? Like if you do that, you can't lead a team, you can't like have a direction, you can't prove out hypotheses. But finding that right balance of like making these small quick changes versus constantly changing or never changing at all is a constant challenge.
Yeah, totally. The personal side of it, managing your emotions, is probably one of the biggest things you have to manage as a founder. And people, been speaking to saying that managing yourself is often the most difficult because it's 24/7, and that emotional side. Like as the time goes on, you get less. You're less affected by those changes and ups and downs, right? It kind of just becomes more normal to you. In terms of piece of advice that you could give to yourself in the early days of starting the company, what would that be?
I'd say, ooh, that's a good question. I would say think about, especially in healthcare, your users aren't necessarily your buyers, and they're not necessarily the ones who may also make decision makers. So you really, in healthcare, you really have to figure out and map out like, okay, who are the right users, but who's actually going to make the decision, who's going to influence the decision, and then who actually has the budget. And then being able to craft your strategy around like figuring that mapping out, I think would have been very, very beneficial to have early on. And then, yeah, I'd say that's probably the main piece of advice.
Yeah, totally. And in terms of your future plans for Avo, what does the next year to 3 years look like?
Let's see. Raising our Series A, so hopefully end of this year we'll be on the path or have closed that. So that's like a big milestone, of course. Getting some of these distribution deals that we have in the works accomplished and launched by the end of this year is definitely important. I'd say beyond this year, being able to like expand into other segments within healthcare, I think would be really really strategic. Like we're helping clinicians first and foremost at the point of care, but there's implications like for payers, life sciences companies, really across the gambit within healthcare. So trying to touch and impact as much as possible, even patients, obviously. So more explicitly, kind of having a strategy and impacting those other segments would be awesome. And then third is just continuing to build out the team in a very thoughtful, methodological way, and paying super close attention to culture and the team we're building here. Like I think the team we have now is incredible. It's obviously tough to maintain culture and what you've built when you're small and as you grow, right? So just keeping an eye on the ball there and making sure like we continue to espouse company-wide a culture of curiosity, playfulness, hard working, like constantly innovating. Those are some like the key tenets of what we're building. So just making sure that continues to persist.
Love it. Awesome, Lawrence. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Appreciate it.